So that is one thing. We have to, first be perfect at what we're doing. And then we have to keep that momentum going. I wrote down here, do the first thing perfect until it becomes easy to move to the next step. There's always going to be another step to move to, right? And so we have to realize that we have to get really comfortable doing the first thing before we're going to be able to add the second. Well, why is it? Because otherwise you're going to become overwhelmed. And when you become overwhelmed, then it just adds stress and you feel pressure. And we don't want to have stress and pressure. We want to be calm and peaceful. So the way we do that is by perfecting the first thing that you need to do first, and then moving on. So I think back when I learned how to play the piano. When you learn how to play any instrument, but we'll just use the piano because of the visual, the white keys and the black keys. When you start to learn the piano, you usually start one of two ways. You either start by learning on the 5 black keys, or you start learning on the white keys. You don't mix the two up at first. So depending on what method they're using, they may start you out on middle C and show you, and they'll probably use one hand first, the right hand generally, and then the left hand. And so there's a method or a process that goes in place to teaching you how to play the piano. And at first, they'll just label everything like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, instead of confusing you by C, D, E, F, G. So there's a method. Everything has to have a method. Well, I also have a method of how I work with businesses and with people that puts everything in the correct order. Because when you get the process, when you learn the first thing, that's the first step, and you get really good at that, then you can move on to the next step. But if you try to do too many steps at once, you just add confusion and chaos to your thinking, to your brain gets cluttered, but you also get frustrated. So it's best to learn something and really perfect it until you move on. Think of this as math. You learned how to add first. Why? Because adding is probably the easiest thing. Once you learned how to add and you became really good at it, you went from single digits, now you add double digits, you get to triple digits, and then you start to learn to subtract. Well, why do you subtract next? Well, because that's the next easiest step. Well, then you go to multiplication and then division. You see, they take each one in an order, you perfect it, and then you move on. You didn't have math where you learned to add one day, subtract the next, multiply the next, and do division the next. You probably didn't even have a year that you did that. And so you learn one thing until you learn it well, so that when you add that next step, you're not overwhelmed and confused. So develop that skill that you need and develop it really well before you move on to the next thing. And understand that you need to have a power of awareness of you and understand how the conscious mind and the subconscious mind are working for and against you. So to reach the next level, you must make the most use of the current level where you're at. Keeping that goal in mind doesn't mean you ignore the goal. You still figure out, okay, what do I need to do to get to that goal? But let's learn one thing at a time so that we don't overwhelm ourselves. And when we move on, then we have a pattern and a place to go. So that is exactly what I did when I started my business. I totally overwhelmed myself because I was like, somebody would say, you need to learn this and you need to learn that and you need to learn this and this and this. And, so then I'm trying to figure out, 8 or 10 things, totally overwhelm myself. And what happened? Nothing. I got so stuck. I got so frustrated and it didn't get anywhere. And so you have to learn one thing at a time. Social media was the same thing. Learn one thing and then you can move on. So that's what I help my clients to do. I have seen how how businesses can get overwhelmed because they're trying to do too many things at the same time, and they're counterproductive and they don't move forward. And so that's why I like to help businesses to figure out where the pieces are that maybe they tried to put in place that weren't at the right place at the right time. And then they've gotten confused and discouraged because it's not coming together. And so that's kind of my forte, is to go into businesses, help them figure out where the problems are, and then how to find the solutions to fix those problems. So I have my link in the show notes that you can schedule a meeting with me. I'd love to go through and see if we'd be a good fit for each other, and if I can help you. If I can't help you, I'm not even going to give you a proposal or anything. I just want to work with the people that I know I can help, and the people that are really interested in that help. So let's have a chat. Love to get to know you and figure out how I can help you to move towards your goal so that you accomplish everything